All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Sarabjit Kaur and with me is Sunil Verma. The headlines. In Bihar, polling begins amidst elaborate security arrangements for first phase of assembly elections. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh says India and US committed to uphold territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations. COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 90.62%. In Jammu and Kashmir, 2 terrorists killed in Budgam district. And in IPL cricket, Mumbai Indians to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi today. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. Now the news in detail. Polling is underway for the first phase of Bihar Assembly polls amidst tight security arrangements in 71 constituencies spread over 16 districts. Voting began at 7 a.m. and it will be held till 6 p.m. In the first election being held amid COVID pandemic in the country, over 2.14 crore voters will exercise their franchise and decide the political fate of 1,066 candidates. 114 women and 406 independent candidates are in the fray. Chief Electoral Officer H.R. Srinivas said out of 71 constituencies, 35 are in Naxal-affected areas. Polling will be held up to 3 p.m. in 4 Naxal-affected constituencies of Chainpur, Nabinagar, Kutumba and Rafiganj, while in other 5 Naxal-affected constituencies of Arwal, Kurtha, Jehanabad, Ghosi and Magdumpur, polling will be held up to 5 p.m. In the remaining 26 Naxal-affected constituencies, voting will be held up to 4 p.m. Additional Chief Electoral Officer Sanjay Kumar Singh told AIR News that central paramilitary forces have been deployed in Naxal-infested areas to ensure peaceful polling.
The polls have started early in the morning at 7 and before that mock polls were done between 5:30 to 7 on all polling booths. We have got reports from all 71 constituencies that polls have started and we have got a very few complaints about EVM malfunctioning, but that is usual in such a large process and looking after it and all such malfunctioning EVMs are being replaced in time. We have enough paramilitary forces with us. In fact, all booths have paramilitary forces and especially in LWE areas, we have layers of paramilitary not only at the booths but also in the area.
Keeping in mind the COVID-19 situation, Election Commission has issued strict guidelines to be followed during the polling. All personnel are directed to wear masks during election-related activities. Thermal screening of all persons is being carried out and sanitizers are available at all locations during polling. All polling booths have been sanitized. Only 1,000 voters will exercise their franchise at each booth instead of 1,500. In NDA, BJP is contesting on 29 seats, JDU on 35 and Hindustani Awam Morcha HAM on 6 seats in this phase. The Vikassheel Insan Party VIP has fielded 1 candidate. Among the Grand Alliance partners, RJD is contesting on 42 seats, while Congress has fielded 21 candidates and 8 CPI-ML candidates are in the fray. Besides, LJP has fielded 42 candidates, while RLSP on 43 and BSP on 27 seats. This phase is crucial for RJD as the party had won 27 seats in 2015 assembly elections. JDU won 18 seats, while BJP 13 and Congress 9 seats. 4 others were also elected. Elections are being held in 3 phases for the 243-member Bihar Assembly polls. Apart from the 71 Assembly constituencies that go to polls today, 94 seats will go to polls in the second phase on 3rd November and 78 seats in the third phase on 7th of November. Counting of votes will take place on November 10th. Now we take you live to our correspondent K.K. Lal. Lal, how is the turnout there and are elderly people coming to vote?
Sarabjit, I am at booth number 185 of Gaya Town School. People are very enthusiastic in exercising their right of franchise. In fact, voters have started coming to polling booth before starting of polling. Elderly and women wearing masks are also standing in queue to vote. I think the voting percentage will be more this time. Sarabjit, this election is the first in the country amid COVID pandemic situation. Keeping in mind the COVID situation, Election Commission has issued guidelines to be followed. Thermal screening of all persons is being carried out and sanitizers are available at all locations.
Who are the prominent candidates in this phase?
Political fortune of 8 cabinet ministers Prem Kumar, Ram Narayan Mandal, Jai Kumar Singh, Krishnandan Verma, Shailesh Kumar, Santosh Kumar Nirala, Vijay Kumar Sinha and Brij Kishore Bin will be decided in this phase. Former Chief Minister Jitan Ram Manjhi is also contesting from Imamganj Assembly constituency as NDA candidate. The RJD has seated former Speaker of Bihar Legislative Assembly Uday Narayan Chaudhary against Mr. Manjhi.
Thank you, Lal, for that update. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged voters to exercise their franchise in the first phase of voting in Bihar Assembly elections. In a tweet, Mr. Modi asked everyone to take all necessary precautions like wearing masks and maintain 2 gaz ki duri.
In Karnataka, the election to the 4 legislative council seats is being held today. The polling will be held from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m. All precautionary arrangements are in place to hold the election amid the COVID pandemic. The polls are held for the Southeast graduates, West graduates, Northeast teachers and Bangalore teachers constituencies. 40 contestants are in the fray and 234,718 voters will cast their votes. Counting of votes will be on November the 2nd. At present, the BJP has 27 members in the upper house, which has a total strength of 75 members. The Congress has 29 members, JDS 14 and 1 is an independent. All the 3 political parties have fielded their candidates in all 4 seats. A holiday has been declared only for voters in these regions and polling will be held in 549 polling stations, including auxiliary units. The elections were necessitated after the retirement of 4 MLCs. The BJP needs to win all the 4 seats if it has to pass 2 of its key bills, namely the APMC Amendment Bill and Land Reforms Bill in the upper house. Even then, the role of the single independent member will be crucial to see that the bills are through. In Madhya Pradesh, the campaigning for the polling on 28 assembly seats of the state is at its peak. The Election Commission is also making every effort to ensure maximum voting along with fair and safe elections. Madhya Pradesh will vote on November the 3rd, while results will be declared on November the 10th. A report.
A total of 355 candidates are in the fray in these elections being held in 28 assembly constituencies of 19 districts of Madhya Pradesh. Out of these, there are 22 female candidates while 333 are male. The highest number of 38 candidates is in Mehgaon assembly seat of Bhind district, while the lowest number of 3 candidates is in Badnawar assembly seat of Dhar district. Meanwhile, the Election Commission has been keeping eye on every activity of political parties. After issuing notice to the former Chief Minister Kamal Nath on the controversial remark, the Election Commission has now issued notice to BJP candidate Imarti Devi for the same region. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
The Chhattisgarh Vidhan Sabha has passed the Chhattisgarh Agriculture Produce Market Amendment Bill 2020 yesterday. After a debate, the House passed the bill by voice vote. State Agriculture Minister Ravindra Chaubey said 7 amendments have been incorporated in the bill and clearly defined deemed mandis, enabling the state government to declare private mandis as deemed mandis. Besides, the bill also provides for setting up electronic trading platforms and introducing other safeguards to ensure that farmers get fair price for their produce. Speaking on the debate, Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel said the amendment of the Mandi Act was not in conflict with the central farm laws but only protected the interests of state's farmers. However, opposition BJP termed the bill as a constitutional impropriety as the state is trying to override the central legislation. After the bill was passed on the first day of the special session, the House was adjourned sine die. India and the US yesterday held the third bilateral 2+2 ministerial dialogue in New Delhi and signed the landmark Defence Pact, the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, BECA. The signing of BECA is significant as it allows India to use global geospatial maps of the United States for accuracy of standoff weapons like cruise and ballistic missiles. From the Indian side, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar led the delegation. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Secretary of Defense Mark Esper led the U.S. delegation. India and U.S. signed 5 agreements in total. The Defense Minister said both sides also agreed that upholding the rules-based international order, respecting the rule of law and freedom of navigation in the international seas, and upholding territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states are essential. In the press statement after the meeting, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh said signing of BECA is a significant achievement.
I deeply appreciate your commitment to our bilateral relations. During the meeting, we have had comprehensive discussions on key aspects of our bilateral and multilateral cooperation. Signing the BECA today, after signing the LEMOA in 2016 and COMCASA in 2018, is a significant achievement in that direction. In today's meeting, we also explored probable capacity building and other joint cooperation activities in third countries, including our neighborhood and beyond.
The Defence Minister said India and US shared assessment of the security situation across the Indo-Pacific. In his statement, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said the Indo-Pacific region was the particular focus of the talks. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said US will stand with India as the country confronts threats to its sovereignty and liberty.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. In Bihar, polling begins amidst elaborate security arrangements for first phase of assembly elections. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh says India and the US committed to uphold territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations. COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 90.62%. In Jammu and Kashmir, 2 terrorists killed in Budgam district. And in IPL cricket, Mumbai Indians to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi today. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
अरे भाई सुना तुमने? अरे इस मुश्किल समय में सरकार ने हम कामगारों की मदद के लिए एक और बड़ा कदम उठाया है।
कौन सा कदम?
पात्रता के नियमों में छूट के साथ ESIC ने अटल बीमित व्यक्ति कल्याण योजना के तहत मिलने वाली राहत राशि को बढ़ाकर दुगना कर दिया है। हाँ
अच्छा, पात्रता की शर्तों को पूरा करने वाले जरूरतमंद बीमित व्यक्ति राहत के लिए ऑनलाइन दावा www.esic.in पर करें। अधिक जानकारी के लिए अपने नजदीकी ESIC शाखा कार्यालय से संपर्क करें या फिर टोल फ्री नंबर 1800-112526 पर कॉल करें।
News Services Division of All India Radio brings to you program Employment News in association with the Publications Division, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. An effective platform for information on job vacancies, training programs, admission notices, results and career advice with experts. Every day at 4:20 p.m. on FM Gold and other frequencies and on our YouTube channel AIR News Official.
Welcome back to the morning news. The COVID-19 recovered cases in the country have crossed 72 lakhs and the recovery rate now stands at 90.62%. Briefing media in New Delhi, Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said, India's cases per million population is among the lowest in the world, which stands at 5,758, while the global average is 5,504. Mr. Bhushan said India's deaths per million population is also among the lowest in the world at 86 deaths per million population. He said the national recovery rate is continuously increasing and has further grown to 90.62%. The Health Secretary stressed that this is a satisfactory sign that within 13 days, the recoveries have increased from 60 lakh to 70 lakh and now have crossed 72 lakhs. He said there is continuous decline in case fatality rate in the country and today CFR stands at 1.50%. Mr. Bhushan said since past 5 weeks, there is continuous decline in average of daily new deaths reported from COVID-19. Signifying a landmark achievement, India has registered continuous decline in the average daily new COVID-19 cases over the past 5 weeks. Health Ministry said this brings into focus the efficacy of the test, track, trace, treat technology strategy being effectively implemented by the states and UTs under its guidance.
In Bihar, COVID-19 recovery rate has improved to 95.25%. This is more than the national average. The number of active cases in the state is continuously declining. Currently, 9,073 patients are undergoing treatment at various hospitals. 1,237 patients have recovered in the last 24 hours, while 678 new cases were reported. Over 2,03,000 patients have so far recovered from the infection in the state. Gujarat recorded 992 new cases during the last 24 hours. The recovery rate has reached 89.84%. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
Gujarat has recorded 1,69,073 cases till now. Out of these, 1,51,888 patients recovered. 1,238 patients recovered during the last 24 hours. More than 58,45,000 tests have been carried out in the state till date. Maximum 225 new cases reported from Surat, while Ahmedabad recorded 170 new cases. At present, total active cases in the state are 13,487, out of which 64 patients are on ventilator. 5 patients died yesterday, taking the total deaths due to COVID-19 up to 3,698. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
In Tamil Nadu, the active COVID-19 caseload has dropped to 27,734 on Tuesday, 1,534 less than the previous day tally. The new infections in the last 24 hours have also dipped marginally to 2,522, including 695 in Chennai. Meanwhile, the Good Samaritan doctor from Surat, who risked his own life in his attempt to save another, was discharged from a hospital in Chennai yesterday in good health. More from our correspondent.
The tale of Dr. Sanget Kumar Mehta of Surat is heroic and inspiring. The anesthetist has been in a hospital there for COVID-19 treatment. When he saw another patient in the ICU who required urgent intubation, the spirit of a selfless doctor in him came to the fore, to the extent of removing his own oxygen cannula to help with the medical procedure for the other. The lack of oxygen supply during the time interval led to severe damage of his own lungs, leading to his airlifting to Chennai and admission in a corporate hospital. The long and specialized critical care, including using life support systems, antimicrobial medicines and physiotherapy, helped in improving his condition. The latest diagnosis revealed that he has completely recovered without any lungs transplant, which was initially considered necessary. Jai Singh, AIR News, Chennai.
In Karnataka, 3,691 new COVID-19 cases and 44 deaths were reported yesterday. During the same time, 7,740 persons have recovered in the state. More details from our correspondent.
According to the State Health Bulletin, 188 fresh COVID-19 cases were reported in Mysuru, 128 in Vijayapura, 123 in Mandya, 122 in Dakshina Kannada, 114 in Hassan, and 103 in Shimoga. The Health Department said 3 deaths each took place in Ballari and Dharwad, 2 each in Uttara Kannada, Mysuru and Kalaburgi. Most of those who died of coronavirus were above 50 and they had severe acute respiratory illness or influenza-like illness. There were as many as 66,701 tests done yesterday, including 52,316 RT-PCR tests. R. Murthy, AIR News, Bengaluru.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that administrative processes have to be transparent, responsible, accountable and answerable to the people for development. Inaugurating a 3-day-long national conference on vigilance and anti-corruption last evening on the theme Vigilant India, prosperous India, Mr. Modi said, over the years, India has moved ahead with zero-tolerance approach on corruption. The Prime Minister said, we have to jointly work against corruption with systemic checks, effective audits, and capacity building and training. He said, fighting corruption is not the job of a single agency, but is a collective responsibility. Minister for Personal, Public Grievances and Pensions, Dr. Jitendra Singh, also addressed the inaugural session. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged people of the country not to become lenient about precautions related to corona during the festive season and said, with strict adherence to social distancing, we will be able to defeat the deadly virus. He was speaking to the beneficiaries of PM Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi, PM Swanidhi scheme in Uttar Pradesh yesterday. Mr. Modi said many government schemes like Jan Dhan, Ayushman, Ujjwala and PM Swanidhi have helped people of the country to fight the corona pandemic in a better way, and we showed the world that we can face any challenge and turn the situation around. He said that the banks are now reaching the poor in the country, and it is the result of the continuous work of the government. This is All India Radio giving you the news.
In Jammu and Kashmir, 2 terrorists were killed in an encounter that broke out between terrorists and security forces last night at village Aribag in Manchau area of central Kashmir's Budgam district. According to police, a joint team of security forces launched a cordon and search operation in Aribag. As the joint team approached towards the suspected spot, the terrorists fired upon them and security forces retaliated, killing 2 terrorists. The identity of the slain terrorists is being ascertained. Further details are awaited. Meanwhile, a meeting to review the arrangements for the forthcoming Eid-e-Milad-un-Nabi was held. Advisor to Lieutenant Governor Farooq Khan directed SMC Commissioner for Fumigation and Sanitization of the Dargah Hazrat Bal Shrine premises after Namaz-e-Isha night prayers to ensure proper sanitation facilities at the historic Dargah besides Janab Sahib Sora and Kailashpura shrines. More details from our Srinagar correspondent.
The holy relic Moe Muqaddas of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be displayed during all 5 prayers of Eid Miladun-Nabi celebration days, and no night-long prayers would be held at the Hazrat Bal Shrine in view of COVID-19 pandemic. Advisor Farooq Khan said that extraordinary arrangements and measures are put in place in view of COVID-19 pandemic in Kashmir Valley so that devotees would face least difficulties. He directed Waqf authorities and shrine management to arrange volunteers to facilitate people so that social distancing would be maintained during prayers. He went inside the shrine and prayed for peace, progress, prosperity and well-being of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. This is Sunil Kohl for AR News from Srinagar.
The Reserve Bank has asked all lending institutions to credit the interest waiver on loans up to 2 crore rupees for 6 months moratorium period beginning March 1st, 2020. The government announced the scheme for grant of ex gratia payment of difference between compound interest and simple interest for 6 months to borrowers in specified loan accounts. Under the scheme, the lending institutions have been mandated to grant ex gratia payment to certain categories of borrowers through crediting the difference between simple interest and compound interest for the period between March 1st to August 31st, 2020. More details from our correspondent.
In a notification issued yesterday, RBI advised lenders to take necessary action within the stipulated time. The government has asked banks to credit the amount to borrowers by 5th of November. As per the scheme, the lending institutions shall credit the difference between compound interest and simple interest with regard to the eligible borrowers in respective accounts for the said period, irrespective of whether the borrower availed the moratorium on repayment of loan or not. Post-payment, lenders can claim the amount from the central government. The scheme will cover education, housing, automobile loans, MSME loans, personal loans to professionals, credit card dues, consumer durable loans and consumption loans. Devapriya Bhattacharjee, AIR News, Mumbai.
In Indian Premier League cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad defeated Delhi Capitals by 88 runs at Dubai last night, keeping their hopes alive for a place in the last four. Put into bat first, Hyderabad posted a mammoth score of 219 for 2 in 20 overs, riding on Vriddhiman Saha 87 off 45 and David Warner 66 off 34. Chasing the huge target, Delhi were all out at 131 in 19 overs. For Hyderabad, Rashid Khan conceded just 7 runs and scalped 3 wickets. In today's fixture, Mumbai Indians will take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi. A team of scientists from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland has confirmed the presence of molecular water on the lunar surface. Scientists said it could be trapped within natural gases or between debris grains. Latest findings reveal that lunar water is more widespread than previously known, with water molecules trapped within mineral grains on the surface and more water perhaps hidden in ice patches residing in permanent shadows. The researchers used data from the Sophia Airborne Observatory.
And now let us take a look at the weather update for the day. The national capital Delhi will have misty sky. The minimum temperature was recorded at 16 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 31 degrees. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky. The minimum temperature was 24 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 34 degrees. In Chennai, there will be generally cloudy sky with light rain. The temperature will hover between 25 and 32 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have partly cloudy sky. The minimum temperature in the city was 24 degrees Celsius while the maximum will be around 32 degrees. On to the north, in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature was 12 degrees Celsius in Jammu while the maximum will be around 31 degrees. In Srinagar, the sky will be mainly clear. The temperature in Srinagar will hover between 0 and 21 degrees Celsius. Leh in Ladakh will have mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature was -4 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 12 degrees Celsius. Gilgit will witness mainly clear sky becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening, with temperatures moving from 3 to 24 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, lower limit of temperature was 10 degrees Celsius, while the upper limit will be around 28 degrees. The sky will be mainly clear. Chandigarh will witness mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature was 15 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 31 degrees. In Ahmedabad, it will be mainly clear sky. The temperature will hover between 18 and 36 degrees Celsius. Guwahati witnessed fog and mist early morning. The minimum temperature in the city was 23 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 31 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Most newspapers today lead with the lifting of domicile conditions in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The pioneer states, now any Indian can buy non-agricultural land in J&K. The Hindustan Times opens up with the caption, will stand by India, US slams PLA actions, backs India on Ladakh, tough stance defense agreement, COVID cooperation, the fruitful outcomes of the 2+2 ministerial dialogue. With increased legroom for overseas investors, India's weighting in global indices set for major boost, states the Business Standard. The coronavirus-induced reverse migration has far-reaching effects. The Asian Age writes, firms look at hiring apprentice to offset staff shortage. The US motorcycle maker Harley-Davidson is set to make a comeback in India, riding on Hero Motocorp. Majestic Harley set for India comeback is the headline in the Tribune. And finally, with the society showing signs of opening up, the Indian Express has a picture of Mahi Purnia, a transgender at work, manning the ticket counter of Sector 50 metro station, which was named Pride Station on Tuesday.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. In Bihar, polling begins amidst elaborate security arrangements for first phase of assembly elections. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh says India and US committed to uphold territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations. COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 90.62%. In Jammu and Kashmir, 2 terrorists killed in Budgam district. And in IPL cricket, Mumbai Indians to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi today. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.